Hello Zimbabwe, this is CVN News, and today we are joined by prominent political figure and activist in Zimbabwe, Linda Masarira. Today we'll be discussing a topic that has sparked intense debates across the political divide, the proposed presidential term extension under Amendment 3. Our conversation will explore the motivations, the implications, the public reactions to this proposal, seeking to understand the perspectives behind it and potential impact on Zimbabwe's democratic processes, and also the party position. You know that Linda leads the Purple Revolution, their party position on the proposed amendments. Well, Linda, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
Linda, as we start off this conversation, can you tell us what's your party position on the proposed amendment?
As Labour Economists and African Democrats, a Pan-African political party with a feminist transformation mantra, we are clear in continuing with our call that we agreed on as opposition in Zimbabwe for a very long time. Every time we've been pushing for electoral reforms, we've been pushing for a proportional representation system with a zebra list, where all political parties will present a party list with the names of their candidates, and people will vote for a political party, and the percentage of votes will then culminate into the number of people who will go into parliament from that party list. We have been advocating for that because we have had bloody elections, vicious cycles of violence at every electoral year, and that has cost ordinary Zimbabweans their lives, their limbs, and there's a lot of toxicity and intolerance that has occurred during every electoral cycle in this country. And I think this is a position that everyone in opposition who still wants justice to happen has held for more than 15 years. And when we were pushing for those electoral reforms, we were saying we really need to abolish the first past the post Westminster system and introduce the proportional representation system, the zebra list, to also aid Section 17 of the Constitution of Zimbabwe, which speaks to gender balance. We have had a parliament that is not gender balanced since 2018. And I remember in the last amendment, I was one of the people who were vehemently against the extension of the proportional representation seats in parliament, where 60 women actually go into parliament after the 210 seats, saying why should we not just have the proportional representation extending to the election of all the MPs like what we already do to elect our senators. We have never had an issue with our Senate. Our Senate is gender balanced, and we also deserve the same. So whilst we were advocating for that PR system, we are also advocating for the president to be voted for in parliament. Why and what are the benefits? We run away from the toxicity of electoral violence, of politics of personalities, of politics of egocentrism. We start focusing on developmental issues. We are able to build coalitions within parliament when a certain threshold is not attained, and we move away from corrupt tendencies in parliament. When we start doing a PR system, there is also plurality of political parties in parliament. And we are not confined to ZANU-PF and MDC only, or ZANU-PF and Triple C, and then they'll be doing their shenanigans inside the parliament, and they come out and they pretend to be saints to the rest of the country. But we have no votes lost. Even lead as small as it is, if it gets 5% of the vote or 3% of the vote, 3% is calculated. How many MPs is it? 3 into 21 will get 7, right? We'll get our 7 MPs in parliament. There is no party that will not get their own MPs in parliament. Even that one that has got 1%, they'll get their 1 MP in parliament. And for me, that is what democracy speaks to. That is what we call plurality of voices. Because honestly, we have never had any democratic election in this country. And introducing a PR system, which we wrote in our recommendation to Parliament of Zimbabwe, will actually aid plurality and help us get to near democracy in this country, because every voice will be heard. We will move away from the binary politics, politics of populism, and politics of personalities. And I think that every Zimbabwean is ready for that. It is only that we are now being made to think in a mob psychology manner, where one particular opposition member says we should do this because this is unconstitutional, this should not be amended. But from our perspective as lead, I think we need to sober up as Zimbabweans and try to interrogate these amendments on how they will benefit us. One of the biggest challenges that I have seen is that those who are against this amendment are against the notion that it's not them who have called for this particular amendment. Because for years, if we wind back to around 2013, Tendai Biti and company, including the Igbo Mandazas and all, have been pushing for a national transitional authority, where they wanted a term to be 7 years, being run by technocrats, fixing the country and focusing on developmental issues. But now that script has been taken by those in government, and they're saying, okay, fine, we hear you. Maybe it makes sense. Let's have these 7 years. Then we'll all wake up one day and say, we are having CDF. This is totally unconstitutional. Has it become unconstitutional because it's ZANU-PF that has actually lobbied for this bill? I think those are some of the things that we have to interrogate. Because how are they going to effect the National Transitional Authority without amending the Constitution? They had to amend the Constitution for the NTA to come to pass and have a 7-year term.
But Linda, hold that thought there. But in NTA, I think it then involves everyone, and as you rightly said, including technocrats. And now it's ZANU-PF going it alone. Now I think that there's a big difference.
Yes, the difference is there. That is why I'm also engaging those in opposition that we're at a critical juncture of our democracy, of our constitutionalism. We just cannot go all out guns blazing, shouting and screaming without finding bargaining points. We have had so many electoral reforms that we've wanted for years. Why don't we rally together as opposition, engage the ruling party, and have a win-win situation that benefits both the ruling party and the opposition? Like in the amendment 3 that is in place, there are 10 senatorial seats that are want to be added. If there are 10 senatorial seats, we can also demand for opposition to occupy those 10 senatorial seats. And then we have a buy-in on the way forward in the way we want to govern this country. We also can bargain with the zebra list proportional representation system that I was speaking about. It's not part and parcel of the amendments. But as long as we do not have a PR system, voting for an MP in parliament becomes null and void because it is able to be manipulated. So there are a lot of things that we can bargain if we really want to look at this in a sober aspect as the opposition that wants the best for this country. What I am really against is for a certain grouping of people to say this is criminal, this is illegal, because it is not them doing it. And that is how Zimbabweans have suffered for over 2 decades, because some feel like they only have the right to amend the Constitution. And if it's not done by them, then there should be no amendment at all. I think we all need to sober up as Zimbabweans and say what is the best foot forward.
Linda, you are a president of an outfit called LEAD, and I take it that your faith that one day you will lead, and you've always said that you'll be the first female president of this country. Do you want to keep on waiting now that there is proposed?
We actually have higher chances of having the first female president being voted in parliament than outside, because there's a lot of misogyny and toxicity in this country. Some of the democracies that we admire in Zimbabwe, like South Africa and Botswana, fought for their president in parliament. But now we want to introduce the same. We say, no, we do not want it. We want to continue with vicious, violent elections.
Linda, you've publicly supported the extension of presidential terms under Amendment 3, and citizens argue that such extensions undermine democratic principles.
How do they undermine democratic principles?
How do you respond to concerns that this sets a dangerous precedent for governance in Zimbabwe?
I think I explained that part very well, where I was saying we've got also a dangerous narrative that things are wrong because they've not been effected by those we like or those we want. I think if it was those they like who were doing that, the perspective would be different. One of the biggest challenges we have in our country is if a certain political grouping says this, no one takes time to read and understand what is on the table. People will just say what a particular political grouping has said or what a political individual has said and say, this is it and this is our opinion. I am not like that. I'm forward thinking. I think about the future. I think about what is in front. Because honestly, there is no way that you will defeat those war collaborators and war veterans and what in a first past the post electoral system. Here's a chance for us as opposition to be able to converge and get more seats in parliament and vote for a president that we want, but everyone is skeptical about that and they do not want that. So what is it that we want exactly?
Linda, when the constitution was being voted, when we voted yes or no, what was your position then?
I voted no.
You voted no?
Yes.
Why did you vote no then?
I voted no because I had not seen the copy of the constitution. I am that pragmatic. I am not told what to do by other people. But you'll find that the majority of people who voted yes for that constitution had not seen a copy, did not even know what was in the constitution. They were just being told by their favorite political leaders that vote yes. I am not that person.
But
I wanted to know what was in the constitution. I wanted to know how it would affect me as an individual, how it would affect native Zimbabweans, and how it was going to benefit everyone. And that is the main reason why I voted no alongside Prof. Maduku and company when we were saying this is not yet Uhuru.
Linda, you participated in the 2023 elections and you were a presidential candidate, if I'm not mistaken. But I think you wanted to be voted for, to stay for 5 years. Now we want to have a term extension. Did you vote for president? You didn't vote for him.
I voted for myself, even though they removed me from the ballot. I went inside, drew Linda and wrote Linda Masara and put an X.
But you were voting for Linda to be president for 5 years, not 7, not 8, not 10.
Can I take you back to something? Do you have a copy of the constitution in here?
No, we don't.
You don't. I think you can open even on your phone. When you look at that constitution, it's written amendment number 20. Which means constitutions can be amended. There's no criminality in amending a constitution. There's no unconstitutionalism in amending a constitution. Even constitution rebellion or no amend. So I think we should stop lying to the people of Zimbabwe that this is criminal or this is what. Those who want a referendum should just speak out and say, close Chakuti, Chakuti, Chakuti says we should go to a referendum. And if that's not what needs to be done, and let the law take its course. Yes. But saying it's illegal to amend the constitution, I think that is very wrong. Because constitutions worldwide are amended. It's not only Zimbabwe that has started amending a constitution. Even Trump is seeking to amend the constitution to extend his term of office. So there is nothing unique about any ruling party in any country trying to change a constitution. That is the reality in politics.
But the way it is being done, are you in agreement with the processes that both?
The way I understand how amendments are done, like so far, it was presented to cabinet. From cabinet, it was gazetted in parliament, and it will be debated in parliament. I think they've already started debating it. After they debate, they'll have public hearings. That is the process. I don't know what this hullabaloo is all about. When the public meetings are held, they will listen to the public's input. The parliament itself opened up their emails and said anyone who's got further input can email it to them. So I think the public consultation process is going on. And then after they're done with the public consultation, we will hear the next step. I have not heard anyone from ZANU-PF, even Ziambi himself, saying we're not going for the referendum. I've not heard that. But we've heard those, my colleagues.
No, yeah. Minister Ziambi said that. He said no referendum needed.
No, I didn't hear that. I think I missed that. But I did not hear him say that. And if he said that, I think he'll have to answer for that in parliament if the clauses really need that referendum. Because the members of parliament, in parliament right now, have got the obligation to uphold the constitution and to ask those pertinent questions to Ziambi in parliament. Because Ziambi actually answers to the parliament.
Linda, you've been an activist for a very long time, and I think you've seen some of these public hearings. Amendment number 2, for example, people didn't want it to sail through, and people expressed it through the public hearings, but there's nothing that changed. It sailed through. And I think you have been in a position where you were pushing for something and even mobilized for people to say to go against something, but at the end it sails through parliament. What do you think public hearings or writing to parliament is going to stop this amendment number 3?
I don't know, I could similarly ask you the same. That do you think that even if people protest, going to the streets and die and do whatever they want, will it stop amendment number 3?
You know, as a party, what's in it for you if this sells through? Are you going to benefit in any way?
We are not going to benefit now, but in the future we're going to benefit. I believe that this is the only way ZANU-PF will be removed from power.
We have a whipping system in Zimbabwe, and parliamentarians, they are whipped into line.
But when they vote in parliament, wait. When they vote for the president, they vote on secret ballot. They vote on secret ballot, and no one will look at the one who did not vote for ZANU-PF. Yes, they do not go. Abasimunzima wogoga kazokumira mulaini zvatakambona gore reri. Munhu anovhota zviri secret achinokasta vhoti rake.
Linda, you know there are critics or people that are advocating for amendment number 3. They are saying, like, I don't know if you subscribe to this. They are saying that we should give President Emmerson Mnangagwa more time to finish off the project that he has started. What do you think about
President Emmerson Mnangagwa is on record saying he's finishing his term in 2028. I think it is all speculation from everyone who is saying that he's the one who wants to continue. I actually think that since we have been seeing succession plans happening in ZANU-PF, I personally think he's going to step down for the one who's going to succeed him for those 2 years. That is what I personally think. Yes. I think I heard him say that with his own mouth, and I'm actually waiting to hold him to account for what he said.
But persuade us.
How can I persuade you? I'm not in ZANU-PF.
No, I'm not saying I'm not saying persuade us. There are people that he termed persuade us, the ones that are trying to persuade him to continue. And they say that Baba Mnangagwa ngavatongeswa 2030. These are what the persuaders are saying.
You're speaking about what the persuaders are saying.
Chances are.
And I have said, I'm waiting to hold the president of Zimbabwe, Mr. Emmerson Mnangagwa, to account. Because I have heard him several times, even on international interviews, saying he's not going to go beyond 2028.
Linda, critics claim that constitutional amendments to extend presidential terms are often politically motivated rather than based on national interest.
There is nothing that is not politically motivated under the sun.
How do you justify your support for Amendment 3 in light of this skepticism?
Like I've said, there's nothing that is not political under the sun. Everything is political.
And your stance is also political. Your stance is in support of Amendment number 3.
Yes.
Muda kudya.
Inini andiko mukudya ansana bodya mari yemunhu. I think ndakatonyora pa X msuna chibondudzewo kuri kwanika mari yacho yandiri kunzi ndiri kupiwa. Ndinovaudza kuti pa X ndikunzi ndapiwa mari. And ndikatoipiwa ndinotouya panocha ngatite imwe video ndirakidze nyika mari yendazoiwana.
But Linda,
and then basically what I'm telling you is this is the best way forward for Zimbabwe in courts. Not today. Yes, we might have to hold on up to 2030, but beyond 2030, this will be the best thing that ever happened to this country. And I want you to keep this particular clip
yes,
because it will come in handy. I am telling you, voting for a president in parliament, extending the term limits will be the best thing that will ever happen to this country.
Linda, you were at one point, I don't know if I can call it radical or you were a critic. What happened to you? I
think if I ask you a simple question, the person you were 10 years ago is not the person you are today. We all grow. We all evolve. We all get to a stage where we start seeing things differently. If you would see Linda burning tires at 45, what she used to do when she was 20-something, obviously there will be something wrong with Linda. But Linda also has to start thinking for the future. And for the children of Zimbabwe, we want a brighter future. And that brighter future, we cannot locate it as long as we are still continuing with politics of skullduggery, tomfoolery, insulting each other. We will not get anywhere. Even in your own marriage, my brother, if your wife is always screaming every day, you shut out. But if she talks to you nicely and you sit down, you can converge and make plans that will benefit your family. And I think that is the stage that I've gotten. I've gotten to that negotiating and bargaining stage where we have to bargain for what is best for this country, what will benefit Zimbabweans, not what will benefit me as an individual, no. What will benefit the people of this country. There are a lot of people who need a breakthrough. And I'm talking of socio-economic transformation, a real socio-economic transformation. Because what I see in this country is that there is a widening gap that has been happening over the years of the elite and the poor. We no longer have an average. Yes, some would think because I'm driving my Honda Fit or I've got this, maybe I'm average. But I really don't think that we still have something that is called average in this country. I think we've got the elite, the poor, and the very poor. That is where we are as a country. And I cannot keep on following politics of people staying in Chishawasha Hills or in Glenlon or whatever, because that is where most of our opposition political elite live. They arrived. They arrived, they looted during the days of the GNU. And whenever they find another opportunity for them to get more money, they'll come with their narratives and make people rally behind them. But at the end of the day, isu
Linda, can I talk to amendment number 3 yakanaka? Why is the critical voice being silenced? We saw there's an organization that
I think that question. Wait, there is an organization that can I hold you? Can I hold you before you ask me? No, that question should go to ZANU-PF, should go to the police, because I cannot answer on their behalf. I cannot answer on their behalf.
It's true, Linda. Yes, in a society, it's normal for people to differ.
And that's why I said I am not ZANU-PF. I am not the police.
But you're in support.
Those are the best people. No, I'm in support as my political party. And I said I'm only supporting 3 clauses. The rest I am not supporting.
President wakapinda lead inogona kungopinda inogona kungwanira nyasha. But anyway, you said
lead inoda kusosandura kuti kuti maZimbabweans agare zvakanaka. Saka ndopsa tofanira kutosapota izvozvo.
Takaona vana madhuku vachirohwa, takaona imwe musangano waida kuitwa nenonzi accountability lab Zimbabwe or Alesa.
Accountability lab Zimbabwe hakuna mborohwa munhu. I was there.
No, they stopped the meeting.
Yes, I was there.
Why was it stopped?
I don't know. I also condemned that. I condemned that. If you look on my ex, I condemned that. I even did put another interview condemning. Why are you stopping Zimbabweans from talking? I believe that no one should be stopped from expressing themselves or their opinion. And that's a violation of our political rights in the constitution. I condemned whoever kavazvambaradza. It's there on X. It's not proper. That I do not support. Just because I'm supporting 3 clauses doesn't mean I'm supporting Ruwa Kwevanu. That is very wrong if you're trying to insinuate that. Because I've condemned all that violence.
Linda, there are people that hold a condition that supporting term extensions may reduce the public's trust in government. And how do you address concern that this move could fuel public disillusionment and unrest?
Do you really want me to answer that?
I want you to answer
Don't
that.
Let's leave that one.
Why? Let's respond, Linda. You are a president of a political outfit.
All right, to tell you the truth, trust issues will never change in this country, not anytime soon. It will take more than 50 years for us to have trust issues, even if we have a change of government today. Zimbabweans have been hurt so much. My trust issues would take a very long time to have trust issues in this country. And secondly, that there will be unrest in this country. Zimbabweans love their money. They are too busy chasing their money to have an unrest in this country. That's my personal opinion. Zimbabwe vanongwavha mahasla. Vakasiyana South Africa vasina mabasa ekuita kuti vanongotorwa vandoenda kustreet munoda iso. Munomano esanga otsvaga mari yake. Tatoudza munhu ndenda kuroda kuzonopenga. But that's the reality, and that's our Zimbabwe.
Linda, during the run-up to 2023, I visited Epworth, a constituency where you command a sizable number of people. You want those people's voice to be silenced, and you want MPs to now vote for a president. What will happen?
They will not be silenced. It's also lead. Let me tell you zvatinoita kulead. Kulead takasiyana nemamwe mapato. Ekuti munhu angara kuborodhi waenda kuita MP kuEpworth. Isu kwedu ukatoona chero makandidate ataiva nawo anotogarako varimo muvanhu imomo muEpworth. Saka they will not be silenced anyhow. Chero tikanzi takuita PR list redu zebra iri nanchitaura riye totomeka sure kuti kune munhu wekuEpworth arimo anozomirira vanhu vekupi vekuEpworth. That is how we operate.
Linda, we said that Parliament will vote for the president, and this seemed to concentrate power in the hands of the few. And I asked something like that, so in the hands of the few rather than the people. How would you address concerns that this could weaken accountability for ordinary citizens?
I don't even think it will weaken accountability. I actually think it will strengthen accountability. Because in the current system that we have, it's not easy to summon the president to parliament for questioning. But under a PR system and the president being voted for in parliament, the president will have to go in the dock and answer to MPs. So that is another advantage of voting for a president in parliament. They will have to stand there and answer to the questions because it's parliament that elected them. And it's easier to remove an underperforming president in parliament than with the first past the post electoral system. I'm being honest. It is far much more easier. Because munongo impeach andimamisa. Mukamisa ndimunomvisa.
But my MPs are going 40,000 all these things to entice them. Linda, you think they'll vote the president out? And there's also, it's complicated by the fact that we have triple C in parliament.
So fine. Whose fault is it if then we continue electing corrupt MPs who do not stand for the people? Because I'll give you an example. In South Africa, tinotoziva kuti EFF haidi zvebadhisinyongoro zvikatota noizwa vanenge vachiita noizwa vari kukuona kwave vachipusha chero impeachment yacho ikazoramba, but that accountability stance is already there, handiti? So at the end of the day, like I've said, I'll continue saying this, we cannot throw away the baby, the tub and the bath water, she said, just because we've got a few rotten apples.
But Linda, how then do we ensure that Parliament voting for the president that will reflect the interest of a broader population rather than just a few? Because Parliament zvavachanoronga tizivi isusu paground tiri kuti aiwa ngatipinzei Linda.
I think what will be important in this juncture is every person will vote for a political party. Those are the questions that everyone who's thinking of voting a Chimuti party will ask Chimuti president. Kuti saka imimi kana tazokuisai mukapinda parliament mukunovhoterani kuti aite mutungamiri wenyika. Imi vachitsiga party kana muchinge mapinda muchanoisa ani kuti aite president. And then people will rally their votes where they are. And if the MPs do otherwise, I know the people have the power to recall them. And I think those are other frameworks and amendments that have to be in place to also safeguard the people's vote.
Linda, aside from the presidential term limit extension, and the bill also speaks to dissolving the Zimbabwe Gender Commission and merge its functions with the Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission. What are your thoughts on
I'm very much against the abolishment of the Zimbabwe Gender Commission. It's not yet uhuru for women and gender balance in this country, and it is actually a travesty of justice. The women's movement fought very hard to ensure that this section was actually added into the Chapter 12 institutions of this country. Trying to abolish the Gender Commission actually places Zimbabwe in the spotlight of not taking seriously the functions of a Gender Commission. And it also violates the international protocols that Zimbabwe is signatory to, like CEDAW, like the Beijing Protocol, and also the other one in Africa, I've forgotten its name, because Zimbabwe actually signed to ensure that there are bold principles to do with gender. And I do not even know whoever came up with that amendment, what they were thinking, or maybe they were high on something, because no one in their sane mind would just come up and say, we need to abolish the Gender Commission. I mean, for me, that is very myopic. And any sane Zimbabwean who supports that particular clause should actually go be analyzed by a psychiatrist. So for us, we are actually advocating for that clause to be totally removed and to ensure that the Zimbabwe Gender Commission is actually strengthened and given more funding. Trying to put the Zimbabwe Gender Commission to the Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission is actually putting a lot of burden to the Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission, which has not even done a quarter of the work that it needs to do in this country.
But government, Linda, is arguing that merging these commissions reduces duplication, saves resources. Why would you believe gender issues require a standalone institution?
Women are still suffering from structural marginalization, and it's not a secret, and most of them are systematic. And there are a lot of cases that are still being investigated, and a lot of issues that need to be dealt with. So we cannot try and think that we're going to be saving resources by putting the Gender Commission under a department in the Zimbabwe Human Rights Organization. I mean, the Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission. There's someone who's just trying to be funny here. At the end of the day, Zimbabwe is not the only country that has got a gender commission. Plenty of countries have got gender commissions because it is actually a sustainable development goal to ensure gender balance across the world. So why does Zimbabwe want to backtrack now? For what? Are we saying that we want to continue with cycles of patriarchy, sexism, misogyny, etc., at the expense of gender balance?
Linda, if there's things that you can point to that the Gender Commission has done that you think counts for it to be funded, or that counts for it not to be dissolved?
To tell you the truth, I don't even think Zimbabwe Gender Commission has wasted that much money of the government. But what I know is that the Zimbabwe gender policy that is now being used in Zimbabwe was created by the current Zimbabwe Gender Commission. I attended almost all the consultation processes. I was there. The proposal to move over from the first past the post electoral system to a proportional representation Zebra list is actually a resolution that we did the Gender Indaba in 2019, which is still work in progress. In trying to abolish the Zimbabwe Gender Commission without yet finalizing the issue to do with the amendment to deal with gender balance is actually being mischievous. Like I said earlier, that someone is trying to be mischievous. Someone is still trying to ensure that we do not have gender balance in especially the critical institutions in this country like Parliament. And we will not stop fighting for that because there is no justice without women. There is no democracy without women. Women constitute more than 54% of the population of Zimbabwe, and they deserve half of their seats in parliament, and they belong to them, and they shall have them. They deserve half of their seats in the army, in the police, where the decisions are being made, not in junior stables.
And what other statutes or what other clauses would you take away from the proposed bill?
There is no reason whatsoever to dilute the functions of the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission. What would actually be expecting the government to do is to strengthen the functions of the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission and allow it its independence. Some functions of ZEC cannot be taken back to the registrar's office. That is a complete no. The registrar's office is already overwhelmed with its own work, and it cannot be given extra work to deal with electoral things. The Zimbabwe Electoral Commission should be allowed to function as it is and be strengthened and ensure that there are proper institutional frameworks in place to guard against corruption and manipulation. There is no reason whatsoever to introduce a delimitation commission. Delimitation happens once in 10 years. If they want something to do with that, it should be a department within the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission. I also believe that it's not yet time to remove the National Healing and what was it called? National Peace, NPRC? National Peace and Reconciliation Commission.
Yeah.
There's a lot of work that needs to be done in terms of national peace and reconciliation. Yes, I've had some saying the functions have been taken down to the chiefs, etc., but I don't think that the chiefs are political and that they'll be able to handle issues to do with national peace and reconciliation. I still believe that its lifespan should be extended since its lifespan ended. That was stipulated in the Constitution of Zimbabwe. In short, what I'm basically saying is the government of the day should take their hands off Chapter 12 institutions and leave them as they are. Because there is a reason why they both agreed to have the Chapter 12 institutions in place when they were creating the Constitution and amending it in 2013.
Linda, as we close this, I want to take you back to the presidential term limit extension. you are adamant that President Emerson Mnangagwa will step down in 2028, but a thought came across me that we are now extending his term, so the current term is being extended up until 2030. So is it possible for him to then step down, of which we are extending his term, the current term?
From what I've heard in the grapevine is saying he's going to step down for his success. That is what the grapevine is saying. And I cannot speak about what the grapevine says in public.
I'm not curious to know who, and obviously you will not respond
Exactly.
to that. Thank you so much. This was Linda, the president of Lead. We're discussing about constitutional amendment number 3, the proposed, and we spoke of the presidential term limit extension. We spoke about the proposed dissolvement of the Gender Commission. That this was your favorite program on CVN News. Thank you.